Great, thanks, Sue. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about some research that women in research conducted earlier this year. I wish that I could take credit for the idea. Unfortunately, I cannot. This is really the brainchild of Lucy Davison from Keena's Mustard and Lila Kosky with Logica Research. They approached WIRE and were really interested in developing a study that would inform the criteria for an award that we could give out in the industry that really illuminated the best places for women to work in research. And I'm just going to walk you through some of the results of that research. Ooh, sorry, Ray, I'm maybe a little trigger happy there, but I think the slides are working. So just to give you a brief overview of the study, we talked to a broad number of people in the industry, both client side and agency side, and at different career stages, because we really wanted to get a broad range of perspectives on what makes a great place to work, and to really inform a quantitative questionnaire. So we started out with a qual study, and then off of that, we developed the quant questionnaire, which is the bulk of the research that I'm going to walk you through this morning. And we heard from almost 600 researchers across the globe in over 30 countries, the majority of which were from the US and the UK, which is not a huge surprise since those two countries represent the majority of the global research spend. And the research represents both men and women, all ages, agency and client side. As you can see from this slide, most people who participated work for a company or an organization, which means they're not independent or self-employed. Over half manage employees, about 28% are executive level or business owners. The majority, roughly 70%, are on the agency and supplier side. And you can see here that we've got 3/4 women and 1/4 men. And while there are gender differences on specific questions, and I'll point those out as we kind of walk through the research, there are more similarities than differences in the important factors for what makes a company a great place to work. And these findings apply across different groups and different demographics. I also want to point out that the results are not weighted. We looked at weighting by different gender emphasis in different regions and other subgroups of working researchers sort of versus the general population. And with this kind of diverse sample, we just felt that weighting could introduce more noise than it would solve for. And you'll see in much of the data there are more similarities than differences between men and women, which is really interesting, because I think a key takeaway from this research is that overall we see that what makes a great place to work applies to both women and men. So if something makes a great place to work for women, it also makes a company a great place to work for men. The great news is that on a typical day, most researchers like going to work, regardless of gender. 89% of researchers day to day like working at their company or organization. But employee satisfaction and the likelihood to recommend an individual's employer could be higher. And here's where we start seeing some gender differences, though they're not incredibly significant. Baby boomers, for instance, have significantly higher ratings for both of these rankings than younger generations. And an important aspect of gender differences in this study is that men tend to be older on average. And by that, I mean they're more likely to be baby boomers, and they're also more likely to be founders and owners or independent, which is not that surprising when you kind of look at the makeup of business owners in the research industry overall. Women in our study tend to be younger and are more likely to be millennials, and these differences we feel might be impacting job satisfaction and the likelihood to recommend their employer. So we see room to improve job satisfaction and recommending employers, which gets us to, really what are the qualities of a company or organization that makes it a great place to work. And I know because we're short on time, I'm walking through the study rather quickly. If you want to see the full results of the study, they're posted on the Women in Research website. Just go to womeninresearch.org. Those results are posted there. But I want to really just focus on the qualities that make an organization a great place to work. And the top three qualities are, first, executive leadership that's in line with an individual's core values. The second is organizational attitudes that reflect an understanding of employees' lives outside of work. And the third are opportunities for career advancement. And these are the results that we really use to form the basis of the criteria that we use for award nominee submissions and for WIRE's Best Places to Work in the Research Industry Award. So how do we get here? We asked researchers of a long list of what's most important, what's nice to have, whether or not they needed to have a certain attribute or quality for a place to work. And of those that were most important, we asked people to pick the number one most important workplace quality. And these results were determined by our question on people choosing the top ones in order of importance. Now, note that women are more likely to choose an employer's understanding of lives outside of work and career advancements than men. And men are more likely to choose open communication, competitive compensation in the industry, and skills training. So the top 10 gaps here on the slide are based on what's most important to employees, and the gap shown is between must have it and have it. So do they have a particular attribute or quality, or those things that people feel they don't have but must have? The top 3 areas here are highlighted. Obviously, there's room to improve in these areas as well as in equal pay. We don't see significant gender differences in gaps, though interestingly, I think women are more likely to select more attributes as a must-have. They're also more likely to say that they're getting many of these benefits, making the gaps for men and women more similar than different. And the item that most people chose as most important was open communication with managers. And it's also most likely to be selected as currently receiving and have it. So congratulations to all of you who are managers. We just don't see much of a gap here. So you might be asking, where do you go from here? The first is to really look at how your organization is doing in each of these top 3 areas. So alignment on values with executive leadership, recognition on life outside of work, career advancement. Those are all the top 3 areas that the people in the study valued. And I challenge you to identify how you personally can improve where you work in one way related to the top 3 areas. And I'd really encourage you to think of what you can do yourself in your own behavior and how you might lead change in your organization. It can be getting feedback from team members on what gaps there are, prioritizing things that can be done right away, assigning people to take the lead on making the changes. There's a lot that can be done. And again, I would say, if this is a subject that's of interest to you, please by all means go to our website, download the full report. Most of the questionnaires listed in there. These are also questions that you can ask inside your own organizations. And lastly, I want to say congratulations to our 2 award winners. Greenberg Strategy Group was our #1 best place to work in market research. EMI Research was our runner-up. And lastly, I want to again say a big thank you to Lila Kosky of Logica Research for her really tireless work on this research, and to Keena's Mustard for all of their support in marketing and promoting the study. So I'll turn it back over to you, Sue.
Thank you very much, Kristin.